If you haven't seen the previous video in this series, follow the link on your screen or click the link in the description or pinned comment below.
The name's Rocket. Rocket Raccoon.
Seconds on one logo, which is essentially a promo for the movie I'm already paid to watch.
My brother in Christ, you literally had a promo for some no-name food delivery company that lasted over a minute, then 12 seconds of your own logo. It's like, if you're going to complain about this, you shouldn't do exactly the same thing, only 23 seconds longer. Besides, this isn't a promo for a movie you're watching. You're thinking of the stupid-ass IMAX promos that advertise IMAX in IMAX movies. That's almost as silly as your channel. Almost.
Come on, Drax, dance.
Only idiots dance.
No, only idiots dance to Radiohead's Creep.
Shandy, Madvocate, and CinemaSins fans dance to Creep? That's a lot of dancing.
This massive one-shot is, I remind you, of a CGI raccoon. The entire sequence is probably 75% or more CGI, which takes away from the awesomeness and the whole point of doing a one-shot. And someone's going to find a behind-the-scenes clip showing some human actor in a mocap suit doing this whole walk, and that is kind of my point.
No, it's literally not your point. You're trying to say that a one-shot is devalued because there is a CGI character in it, but if you admit there is a motion capture actor, you are admitting it's still a one-shot. In fact, I would argue it's more impressive considering the lighting changes that are required in a one-shot, which can ruin the color-keyed mocap suit. That is not an easy thing to achieve in a stable scene, let alone one with dynamic camera movements.
Again?
It's the third movie, Drax, not counting the whole Thanos thing, and you're somehow still able to be disappointed by Peter Quill.
I guess you were just forgetting that Peter is one of his best friends, and he's sad that Peter is unable to get over Gamora and is constantly getting passed out drunk. I mean, this is the whole Thanos thing. Why are you trying to divorce this from that?
The dog spacesuit is cute, but how do you expect this animal to do its business, you psychopath?
You know that Cosmo is super intelligent and can talk, right? Meaning when she needs to go, she can either use her telekinesis to remove the suit or ask someone to do it for her. I mean, even stupid dogs let you know when they need to be taken outside, and this one can literally vocalize.
Is this public area really the best place to be practicing with the death stick? Everyone chuckles because he got lucky and hit the robot who can take a spear to the chest, but I'd like to see how much they'd be laughing if it hit a kid or a dog or an eyeball.
First of all, Nebula is a cyborg, not a robot. Second, let's stop sinning movies for things that could have happened, shall we? That's why the scene exists, because it didn't do what you think could have happened. Otherwise, that would have been the scene. Obviously, it hasn't happened before, hence the reaction from the crowd.
Nebula, did you hear? He called me a bad dog.
Stealing the Dogs Can Talk translator from the movie Up, made by the studio Pig Squirrel.
Except Cosmo the Space Dog has existed since 2008, and Up came out a year later, meaning you've got that backwards, you casual.
Mantis, why don't you just touch him and, make him happy?
I am Groot.
Gross.
Giving Groot the grossest line possible so you can slip the grossest line possible into your Disney-approved movie.
Groot clearly said she should touch his penis. Now, I don't know about you, but I don't think women touching someone's penis is gross. In fact, that's how we all got here. Except you, of course, since you were made in that lab in Wuhan.
It is wrong to manipulate the feelings of friends.
That is literally the definition of having friends.
That definition you're using is pretty ridiculous, but not quite as ridiculous as that laugh.
Character we think is a hard-ass takes off their shirt and reveals a bunch of scars, suggesting they're even hard-assier than we thought cliché.
Actually, this is the opposite of that. We are supposed to feel sympathy for Rocket here. Usually this trope is meant to signify a person being a badass, but here we are shown that Rocket has been abused.
Rocket's tiny raccoon body survives this in a way that Newton would be personally offended by. I bet he'd hate the MCU.
Well, there's a lot of that going around, ain't there? But I wouldn't invoke Newton if I were you, CinemaSins. With the way you proudly stated there is no gravity in space, I'm certain he'd hate you more than the MCU.
On the ground!
Great! A fight between a character I've known for a while but whose powers I know nothing about versus a brand new guy whose powers I know nothing about, set in a city that is derivative of half a dozen sci-fi movie cities. Forgive me if it takes me a moment or two to find my orgasm.
That's the beautiful thing about movies. They show you everything you need to know. Strangely, you seem to fail at the task of understanding what you're seeing, especially when it's being spoon-fed to you. I mean, you literally called her a robot, meaning you have some understanding of her ability to be modular, but for the sake of this sin, you're just pretending you don't know this information? I thought CinemaSins was supposed to be funny. What's funny about contradicting oneself in the span of 2 minutes?
The genetically modified demigod with laser palms and the power of flight choosing to throw hands.
See what I mean? I thought you just said you don't know what Warlock's abilities are, but here you are saying he should be using other abilities to fight Nebula, specifically ones that haven't yet been shown. And for the umpteenth time, movies that feature ape-like beings will have them using their hands and feet to fight because that's how apes fight. This is why Superman still punches things. He's a primate-like being, and primates punch and kick. How the f*** are you consistently surprised at this?
Warlock tearing Groot tree limb from limb sure feels like it should be a big deal. But since we've literally seen this character die, that orgasm is still eluding me.
Considering Groot spends time as a spider with a giant head, I'd say there were consequences. But he's a tree. We've seen him take parts off his own body many times at this point. I mean, a part of him makes up the majority of Stormbreaker, for f***'s sake. What is this criticism?
We need med packs!
Med packs? Is this a video game now?
Jeremy thinks video games invented med packs. That's worth these many sins.
Stitch him up and transfer him in with the rest of Batch 89.
And so begins Rocket's tragic origin story, which he will conveniently play out in his mind, scene by scene, and in chronological order as we go through the rest of the movie, because that is exactly how coma dreaming works.
But see, if they showed him hugging an otter with robotic arms that gets shot in the ass, you'd have sinned the scene for not making any sense.
I'd think twice about touching him with that filthy cage rag unless you want the second word he learns to be infected.
Jeremy yells at the screen cliche.
Also, whichever asshole at MCU HQ who thought I needed to see a terrified baby raccoon be provided with the gift of sapience only for his first experience to be lobotomy-induced agony. And it doesn't end there, kids. We're going to see a ton more animated animal abuse over the next 2.5 hours. I don't care if it's only CG animals. I don't come to my Marvel movies expecting to constantly second screen doesthedogdie.com.
So the sin here is that Marvel was successful at their goal of making you feel empathy for the animals being abused. You're sinning them for doing their job too well? And it's pretty convenient that you no longer care about the animals being CG when it was sinful earlier. You should open a business selling thong slippers.
A kill switch?
A device. Set to destruct if anyone goes poking around inside him.
My parents gave me a kill switch too. It was called guilt.
Why would Rocket have a kill switch?
Apparently someone considered some proprietary technology and sent that golden lunatic to get him.
What? How did she know Warlock was even after Rocket? And even if she did, why would she assume this highly specific motive? The real kicker is that she ends up being 100% correct, despite this being one of the leapiest leaps of logic since Leonard the Leaping Leopard won Best Leaper at the Logical Leap Olympics.
Yeah, that weird assumption the movie showed where Adam was chasing Rocket specifically, and the connection Nebula is literally reading from the computer strapped to her head.
Kill no people.
Kill one guy, one stupid guy who no one loves.
Finding contrived ways to drag Bucky Barnes into every MCU movie.
How many times do we have to teach you this lesson, old man?
Take back word you said that I'm a bad dog.
Nope. This is just a setup so that he can take it back at the end of the movie when the dog does something heroic, because that's just how movies are, and I'm dead inside.
Congratulations, you can point things out. Mind telling us why it was a sin?
I located the coordinates for Orgo Corp. I think I have a contact near there. Maybe they can help us get in.
Space is big. You just won't believe how vastly, hugely, mind-bogglingly big it is. And yet Blue Gamora here happens to have a contact right where they want to go. Wonders never cease.
Sure, it sounds unlikely when you say it like that, until I tell you that her contact is a member of the Ravagers, more specifically Gamora, who has been a space pirate since Endgame. As we have been shown, the Ravagers have people everywhere, and it makes sense they would be near places where other beings that are members of the galactic community exist.
If you watched the first Guardians movie and thought, hey, that was great, but it could really use more Sid from Toy Story, well, have I got the disturbing nightmare fuel trilogy concluder for you.
I'm honestly over casuals and their lack of comic book knowledge complaining about Marvel actually adapting the comics. This is like complaining that Harry Potter has a godfather named Sirius. Who cares what you believe? It's in the source material.
That moment when you know the location text prompts are meaningless due to the infinite nature of space, so you make them full of gibberish.
This actually nullifies your Nebula sin 2 sins ago. This points to there being a galactic community that have some form of coordinates for space, and it's why she was able to find a Ravager near Orgo Corp.
It's bioformed. Instead of being built, it's grown from living matter.
Instead of show, don't tell, this movie is going for the show for a long time and then tell, even though no one asked method of exposition.
Which could be a sin if it weren't coming from you. Am I tripping, or didn't you complain about not knowing Nebula's abilities even though they were showing them on screen? Criticizing tell, don't show when you also criticize show, don't tell is the reason idiots like this exist. And that's sinful.
First shield set.
So when Nebula said
The structure is surrounded by 3 impenetrable plasmic security shields.
earlier she was completely full of shit and meant very penetrable and with extremely little effort needed.
You know this movie made nearly $1 billion, right? Meaning people actually saw it? So we are acutely aware that Star-Lord modified the ship to be able to penetrate the shields, something Nebula was unaware he'd be able to do when she made her statement. In other words, scene manipulation. Ding.
You had family on Earth, and you never wanted to go back to see them?
Nope, he just wanted to make Jackson Pollock jokes in space and eventually deify and allow the redemption of the entity that took him captive as a small boy.
That's a sin for Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, and you're speaking to Mantis as if she can hear you.
You can surrender and turn over any stuff worth anything and live, or you can die. So it's up to you.
The fact that Totes has left Earth and infected whatever part of the galaxy this is.
I mean, I don't disagree here, but you literally used that corny-ass word. Did you think we forgot this?
Aw, those man-eating tulips are just totes and orbs.
Totes and adorbs. That's worth these many sins.
You're early.
Nice try, but that's basically the same as you're late, so f*** you.
Being early is the same as being late.
Be not as you are, but as you should be. It's our sacred mission.
Sounds like church.
No, 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 no.
We have but a single quest: to create the perfect species and the perfect society.
That sounds like 2 separate quests, actually, not a single one.
What? You can have multiple goals on a single quest, dude. Have you never played an Ubisoft game?
Based on these colorful suits, it looks like Skittles abandoned Shazam in the DCU quicker than James Gunn abandoned Henry Cavill.
Imagine playing to the Snyderverse crowd, a band of lunatics so deranged they make Star Wars fans seem neurotypical. Henry appeared in 6 DCEU movies. That's literally as many appearances Chris Pratt has in the MCU. It's not Gunn's fault most people didn't like the DCEU. Blame DC and Snyder for not taking their time to build up a universe organically. You may not like hearing it, but a fresh start is exactly what DC needs.
We loved each other.
I don't think so.
I'm with New Gamora. Quill and Gamora never demonstrated love in any previous film. Flirtation, maybe. Lust, maybe. But they never had a love-based relationship. And this is part of why Quill ruining the apprehension of Thanos in Infinity War is so f***ing stupid. Because none of these movies ever earned that anger from Quill. Because they never earned the relationship between he and Gamora.
What in the blue hell are you waffling about? They never show a love-based relationship between Peter and Gamora. First of all, you're just making up definitions. Lust and flirtation are a part of romantic love. You're asking for C, but you can't get there without A and B. All consensual relationships start out with lust and flirtation. But what are you even asking for with this? All the scenes of them falling in love apparently don't count, so what the hell does?
You were everything to me, and I miss you. Maybe if you open yourself up to it.
What a f***ing dick. You're asking what amounts to someone's clone to fall in love with you because another version of them kind of liked you. You don't know this Gamora, and she doesn't know you, and I guarantee you she's better off for it.
He didn't ask her to fall in love with him. He asked her to open herself up to the idea, to tear down the wall she has up. A wall that, I remind you, exists exclusively due to Nebula telling her she would fall in love with him, so she's actively resisting it. It's like telling someone their future so that person tries to change that future to prove you wrong.
Galactic fat jokes.
Unless you're the personification of the BMI, this is not a fat joke. It's literally a muscular joke.
You threw them in the contamination bin. It expels stuff into space the moment you shut the door.
That would have been helpful information 3 minutes ago.
Mantis would be the wedding singer at CinemaSins.
Considering Mantis is an abject moron, I don't disagree.
Orgo Corp has been producing cybernetic implants and genetic upgrades across the universe.
And nobody thought that maybe this is where the genetically upgraded raccoon might have come from? You had to read his internal organs to figure this shit out.
You're saying this as if they knew this information already, and the movie explicitly shows you they didn't know what an Orgo Corp even was, nor its location, or even cared about Rocket's origins. You're speaking from the perspective of the audience and placing that frame of reference on the characters. We wanted to know where Rocket came from, not the Guardians.
That must be the spaceport.
A lot of this 2.5-hour movie is characters pointing out shit that they see.
So they would be excellent at CinemaSins?
What does this society have against solid machine interface controls?
They already told you. They grew this entire facility. I would wager that it's more cost-effective to grow your own equipment than to order or build it. In other words, this is what a theme is.
You're a kitty cat.
Thinking that a kitty cat is any less of a danger to your life than a regular-ass person. Never forget, we forever live under their gracious permission.
Cat owners.
Let's kill that one that looks like a carrot to show we mean business.
This movie is Ant-Man 3 so far, only instead of the quantum realm, it's this space biome thing. Gooey ship controls, joking about aliens that look like vegetables, a villain in purple that started out with good intentions. Prove me wrong.
Jeremy just inadvertently dunked on everyone that likes this movie but claims Ant-Man 3 is bad. I would give him a sin removal for a base take, but then I remembered he's trying to call this one bad too.
And then I lost my temper and nearly destroyed half the universe.
Record scratch, motherfucker. You did destroy half the universe. It was just undone later by time travel that was invented in a single evening. But you definitely destroyed half the universe with your lost temper.
And since it's back and he helped bring it back, his words are still technically true. You would have a point if this were before Endgame, but it's not, so you don't.
Everyone else who died in the past stayed dead, not her. Why? Was it the magic cliff? I don't know. Not some freaking Infinity Stone scientist.
Oh, wow. We're just going to use this elevator ride as a way to air out all the nonsense that doesn't make sense in Infinity War and Endgame? Well, shit. Is this ride really going to take 47 minutes or less?
It does make sense. His Gamora can't come back, as her sacrifice was an immutable facet of receiving the gem. This Gamora is a time-displaced Gamora from 2014 who exists essentially as a variant in this timeline due to the Pym particle. This is exactly the argument I was making when I said the Avengers can simply pluck a younger Black Widow out of the past and bring her into the current timeline, but for some reason, people think this is impossible. The only people that are confused are the casual audience members. That includes you, Jeremy.
Drax is on the ground after 2 gunshots and Nebula is throwing up, and I hope you didn't think any of these characters were going to die.
What's the sin here? That they didn't die? The movie is worse because the protagonists survived?
Help me, Groody Drax Kenobi.
Jeremy makes a pop culture
No, but a file was removed today.
This bulging Rubik's Cube gizmo is goddamn magic.
Laws of Science Fiction number 3. Any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic.
What he wants is that gutted badger in the med bay, and you're gonna bring it straight to him? It's almost certainly a trap.
That's a concern for certain, but for now I'm more preoccupied with why you know the word badger and know that it's similar enough to a raccoon to be a substitute.
In universe, they are all using communication devices that allow them to understand each other's language. So from the perspective of Gamora, she's actually speaking Zen-Huberi and is most likely saying the Zen-Huberi word that closely translates to badger. It's similar to the Japanese tanuki. Most non-Japanese speakers would refer to that animal as a badger or a raccoon, even though they are different animals.
But also, if this is a trap, it's the worst trap ever because it relies on Quill remembering this guy bumped into him and someone on the team knowing who he is. Especially impossible considering Gamora is the one that links him back to the High Evolutionary, and there's no way he could have known they'd hire her.
I'm sorry, but that sin was one of the largest leaps in logic ever, coming from the dude that tried to criticize this movie for a leap in logic. The trap doesn't require any of what you just said. It was simply reliant on them bringing Rocket back to the High Evolutionary so that he could be healed. The High Evolutionary already knew they were headed to Orgo Corp, which would ultimately lead them back to him. Remember? Sin 29?
I believe I know where they're going.
How could you know that? Why would he assume that the Guardians immediately figured out his plan and were setting a course for Orgo Corp HQ? Warlock doesn't even know how badly injured Rocket is, so why would he know they're going there for help? Why is everyone f***ing omniscient in this movie?
Outpost, this is Gamora. You there?
Naturally, he was completely disintegrated, but his comm device managed to survive.
Naturally, you're lying about him being completely disintegrated, as you can clearly see the lower half of his body wasn't even touched by the Warlock. Guess where the communication device was, audience?
You need to say to him exactly what I told you to say.
Why don't you just say it?
No one ever listens to me.
You have the ability to touch people and alter the mind's perception of reality. They literally have no choice but to listen to you.
No, that's not getting someone to listen to you. That is mind controlling them. You are saying mind controlling someone to fall in love with you is the same as them falling in love with you organically. Did WandaVision teach you nothing? Oh, right, you didn't watch that.
You're simply a medley of mistakes we could learn from and apply to the creatures that truly mattered.
Dad?
No, that's not the test tube in Wuhan.
We're not here to harm you. For your knee.
But we are here to infect you with our disgusting pocket rags. What is it with this movie and sloppy wound management?
Damn it, Jim, he's a pirate, not a doctor.
Now what?
Open the f***ing door!
That is a stupid design. And your instructions were very unclear.
I think the instructions were to find the most inane way to drop Marvel's first F-bomb. Seems pretty clear to me.
Sinning this scene. That's worth these many sins.
Also, why do they think there's going to be a parking lot and ground entrance to this place?
Because there is a parking lot?
She stays here.
Why?
Policy against weaponry, and your arm is a gun.
Well, then why are you letting Groot in? His entire body is a weapon. They don't even bother to scan it.
He's a fucking tree! And more to the point, Flora Colossi are extremely rare, so it makes sense they would be unfamiliar with his capabilities. There's a reason most people can't speak Groot.
It really is good to have.
In the space of 2 minutes, we're treated to the bloody corpses of the adorable otter, walrus, and bunny that we've spent the last hour getting attached to.
Pointing out things on the screen, cliche.
A lot of this 2.5-hour movie is characters pointing out shit that they see. Drax the Destroyer, lovable comic relief hero, and innocent civilian rat murderer all in one.
I guess you just thought Drax was in prison in the first film for running a lemonade stand without a permit, huh?
I don't need another speech by some impotent whack job whose mother didn't love him, rationalizing why he needs to conquer the universe.
Did you used to work for Tesla?
He didn't, but I did. And Elon didn't do speeches. He sends emails. You know, because he can barely talk.
The real they'll enter that alien. There's no aliens visitors.
Pleated space toilets.
That's the problem you have with this scene? I'd be more curious why an alien has a vagina.
If Gamora wasn't indestructible, I'm not sure her story would be able to continue. She's indestructible, right? That's her power?
Superhuman strength, speed, stamina, agility, reflexes, healing factor, durability.
Quite a novel escape plan. Jumping headfirst into an exploding planet.
Was this really the plan all along? How did Quill know they'd be taken to a place with an external window? Or that they'd have the opportunity to be this close to the guy with the key code in his head? I don't think this was the plan at all.
Congratulations, it wasn't. Guess what you win?
Also, Volume 2. We just saw Groot sprout wings and glide them to safety. And the best trick he has to avoid them getting squished is falling down.
I failed to see how those two things are at all related.
What kind of monster slaughters a civilization?
Says the daughter of the guy who slaughtered half the universe. She should be very familiar with this type of person.
Jeremy, I think that was the joke.
You think I'm stupid?
Yes. Forget.
Holy Mattis, that is lazy, selfish, and I'm pretty sure it's unethical to the nth degree.
Didn't you just say she should have done this to Star-Lord to get him to listen to her? So you knew this was unethical, but still said it anyway? Bro, put the meth down. This is not the blue stuff.
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
We were right. The sky is beautiful, and it is forever.
Either this is truly Lila sending Rocket a message from the great beyond and James Gunn is responsible for inventing an MCU afterlife, or this apology means jack shit because Rocket is imagining all of it and none of this matters.
One, we know there is an afterlife in the MCU as we were shown Valhalla in Love and Thunder, and two, even if he is imagining this, it doesn't mean it doesn't matter. Self-soothing and self-motivation are real things in psychology, and they are entirely how guys like Kobe Bryant and Michael Jordan became as great as they were. Pick up a book, George Bush.
There are the hands that made us, and then there are the hands that guide the hands.
Everyone is made by someone. Cool. But that doesn't stop this from being the most well-crafted yet nothing-meaning sentiment I think I've ever heard. There is the sea that sees us, and the sea that sees that sea as it sees upon...
Rocket, we love you very much and we're happy you're alive.
Mantis has time for this.
She almost didn't, and that's the point. Give people their flowers while they can still smell them.
They will die unless you
Bring me what is mine! Screw you, you stretch-faced RoboCop-looking Skeletor wannabe, purple nurple, piece of...
Quill really didn't learn a single lesson from the whole losing my temper got half the universe dusted experience, did he? Does he not like Nebula, Mantis, and the funny one?
You are saying what the movie is saying and sinning the film for it. Play the rest of the scene.
He hung up.
You think?
Nothing else matters.
Never care for what they do.
Oh no. Wait. Is it happening?
Mantis's neck survives this.
Empathy control, superhuman durability, regeneration.
Why didn't you tell us you knew their language this whole time?
Why didn't you ask?
This is dumb. Not Drax is dumb, but dumb because Drax would have already spoken this language at some point in the last however long they've been encountering orb people. As soon as they landed on that fake Earth, there was a language barrier everyone was struggling with. Drax is stupid, to be sure, but he is also impulsive and oddly honest, so the only reason he didn't speak the orb language before now was so that this joke could exist.
You're half right. This was set up for the joke, but the problem is if you rewatch any of the scenes of people speaking Orbos, no one is directing their speech at him. And as we all know, Drax is literal. In fact, I'd argue that attention to detail should be a sin off. But then again, this is CinemaSins and not Cinema Wins, and not paying attention to important things is kind of your calling card, isn't it?
Open the pit.
Sire, our bargaining power will be gone.
I'm starting to not understand what is happening.
Starting?
Wait, did Space decide to stop acting like Space? That is a f***ing hole in his cockpit. Why isn't his everything depressurizing or getting blown out or doing whatever the f*** sealed environment prevents Space from doing to organic flesh? Why is Space broken in this movie?
Because the ships have shields. Dude, this is the third Guardians movie. They are operating under the assumption that you have seen the previous films already. In these films, they show you two versions of shields that protect ships in places like nowhere from space. They are both sometimes invisible until something interacts with them, and this is mainly done so the audience even knows they're there. There is a blue one and a yellow one, and the yellow one is the one that's important in this context. The shield was shown in this movie when they made a hole in Orgo Corp. It allowed the Guardians to pass through it, but it kept the atmosphere inside. This is the same technology they showed on Nowhere where ships pass through, but the atmosphere stays inside. At the end of this movie, they show the same technology when Cosmo is attempting to hold a makeshift bridge together.
She's a good dog.
Sinning this scene, and it being the second sin for the same thing. That's worth these many sins.
I'm done running.
This is badass, but also it doesn't make a lot of sense since he was a captive and wasn't really ever running.
Except he was on the run from the High Evolutionary as they showed in this movie. And the cutting yourself off in the middle of talking is my thing. Stop copying me.
Here's a second one-shot that is mostly CGI.
Okay. And it was one of the best action sequences in the MCU. What's the sin?
Are those kids?
This movie didn't need to be this long.
Neither did this video, but we're here because of shit like this.
It needs to be airtight for the kids to make it across.
Locking up, Captain.
No matter how hard you try, smooshing two things together really hard does not an airtight seal make. Probably NASA.
As explained earlier, Peter is talking about the shields. They're going to turn off the yellow one so the children can pass through the clear one without being exposed to the vacuum of space. They literally show the one on Nowhere is protected against that vacuum already.
Nothing more than a step on my path!
This would be a terrifying moment if we didn't already know that the High Evolutionary felt inadequate due to his inadequacies.
His what? That's racist.
I bet we were fun.
Oh, you wouldn't believe.
Wish we, the audience, could have seen it. Might have made one or more movies more impactful.
Pretty sure we did see it, but you have advanced CTE, so you don't even remember you're making this video while you're making it, Antonio Brown.